Oh my goodness, y'all. I feel like I got in a time machine and went back a month to when Jennifer Crumley got her verdict because I have to say, I was not prepared for this one either. My predictions are getting so bad, and I think it's because the country is getting so much worse at convicting people on the smallest shred of evidence and just reading the worst that they can possibly read into people's behavior. And even, I mean, I don't get me wrong, I don't think that Michelle by any means was a good person. I think that she really had poor character, made bad decisions, and how dare she insult Jennifer the way she did and disparage her when Michelle was the one that was sleeping with her husband. And even if, and I don't know if it's ever been made plain how long before Fotis left Jennifer or if he were involved with Michelle while he was married, and I'm kind of thinking he was, but that's horrible enough in itself. But even if she did not get involved with him until he was separated, she still had no business being involved with someone who had barely exited his marriage, was still going through a very troubling divorce, and was having all these issues, and a father to five. I mean, come on. It's hard to have sympathy for her, and I get that. But what I don't get, and what I am not able to wrap my head around, and I probably need to because it's the way of the world, is when I saw her found guilty on all 6 counts, and something, it was crazy because that jury, I've seen juries polled a million times. I mean, they never poll like that. I mean, they were like, is this your verdict? Yes. Is this your verdict? Yes. I mean, they were like, wow, I can't believe they took so long to find her guilty, because a jury like that, they generally should come back the same day or the next day. So that was shocking to me. They were ready to bring her down. So I just had to get out of that room, because after she heard the words, I mean, you just saw her crumpled into a little ball. I mean, I did not think she was going to be able to support her own weight, because her being her, and she just never expected that verdict, nor did I, but not because I thought, oh, she's innocent. I mean, she did some cagey things, there's no doubt. But do I believe that she actually was on board and agreed that Fotis should kill the mother of his 5 children? I don't see that. If she had known that, I think she would have run the quarter mile. I think he hid it from her, and then I think he was egotistical and narcissistic enough to think that he could just, after he'd done it, he could just lie his way out of it and fool everyone. And for the most part, he did, because he was a powerful man in terms of his business, and that helper that he had with the red truck, he was able to kind of get that guy to not really ask a lot of questions. And, he was pretty authoritative. And I think that he was stupid enough. But at some point, when he killed himself, I think it was because he realized that he was not going to get away with this. He didn't count on a lot of things. And so I think that Michelle got, brought into a situation that she couldn't find the door to. And when all this happened, I just think that she tried to bury her head in the sand, because I think that if she would have asked him lots of questions and said, what about this? Why did you do that? I believe she probably was afraid he would have killed her too. Because think about it. If somebody just killed the mother of your children, what's a mistress? Killing a mistress. There's nothing to it. So I really think that she just went along and slowly thought about exiting the relationship, like the best friend said. Now, speaking of that best friend, oh my God, with friends like her, you do not need enemies, because she did not do her any favors. I mean, for starters, when the jury wanted that replayed, I remember thinking, what could they want? She seemed like a pretty decent witness. But upon the second time of watching it, almost just like with Wendy's interview tape, the first time I saw it, I was like, okay, she didn't know anything. By the second and the third watching of it, I was like, oh my God, lock her up. Because you just see more things. And just the way that lady was coming off so I mean, why wouldn't she trust the police? I mean, you get an interpreter, you get a lawyer, and you do the right thing. You know, she shouldn't have had nothing to hide. But instead, her saying all those things about mistrusting the police, and she had evidence that would have exonerated Michelle, but she didn't come forward for 5 years. I mean, that lady had zero credibility. And since that was the closest to Michelle that they could get on the stand, that lack of credibility transferred to Michelle, and she went down in flames. So I just want to say that there's a couple of things, you know, I'm bitching all the time about things I'm seeing, and I need to stop watching channels and just watch my trials, and that's it. Because watching the commentaries is starting to bother me a lot because, for instance, I think that if all of these channels are going to start making buku dollars off of super chats and subscriptions and, you know, gifted memberships and merch and all the money that they're making because they refuse to reel it in, at least maybe they should have funds that they donate money to the victims of the people's lives that they're discussing. Because how can they reconcile themselves with, like, for instance, last night, one of the shows I was watching was doing a show on Brian Koberger. And I mean, there's this, I don't know, maybe they didn't get the memo, but you're not supposed to say the name of these accused people because especially when they're just seeking notoriety, you're giving them exactly what they want. So you call them by initials or the shooter or whatever crime he did, and call it a day. But this one show I'm watching last night, he must have said his name Brian Koberger at least 100 times. And I was like, really? And you know there's not going to be any funding for the victims or the parents of the victims. And it's getting, like, to me, it's almost getting sinful because it's blood money. And how can they justify it? I don't know. And so I'm just getting to the point where I can't stomach all that. So I'm just the subscriptions that I'm going to be watching are my Showtime series and my Cinemax and just leave it like that because everybody's getting on my nerves. And I mean, I made a couple of monetizing videos where I gave some tips that I thought would be really helpful. And I had said, that they should maybe have flash sales when they reach their goals and a couple of different things to try to bring people into the fold and make it better for the people that are paying all this money for gifted memberships. Like, you should have specials across the show where you're like 10 gifted memberships in the next 5 minutes are 50% off or something like that. Things that I could say, okay, that's cool. That way you're saving the person money because the person probably would have spent full price to get you some gifted memberships through the members on your channel. And to see them come across for 50% off, that's a significant savings. So I think that would be good too. And there's so many things that I suggested. Of course, nobody's going to use them because nobody from the channels that are monetizing are sitting around surfing the internet for tips from me. But I wish they were, because I'm telling you, the monetizing, the super stickers, the thank you in between everything is just getting so old. And I just cannot believe that the rate of inflation that we're in right now and how much and expensive everything is, that people are sitting there just throwing $20, $49.99, these ridiculous amounts of money at these channels. They're making so much money. I just don't think it's, I don't know. I don't. So anyway, but I don't want to, I don't know. I'm not involved in it. I don't know if they're really making that much money, but I just find it hard to believe that they're not. I wish there were a little ticker at the top that would show how much each show is getting, because then you kind of have an idea. And, for some of these shows that all they do is just grab a microphone and start talking, and they really are in a highly produced show where it's costing money and it's taking time away from their family to produce the show, then, I just can't see. But it doesn't seem that there's any distinction. It seems like the shows that are monetizing are just a money grab. And I don't know. It's just driving me crazy. So that's all I have to say about that. But back to Michelle, I was very sad to see her found guilty on all counts. And it just made me think, like, man, you people, the people in the chat, they were so heartless, and they were so... Because I had heard that she was taking a selfie outside the courthouse, and I don't know if that's true, but just the excitement saying, oh, you're taking a, where's your selfie now, Michelle? And just speaking to her like she was a dog. I don't know. It made me sad. It made me sad, and I wonder how these people, if something happened to their daughter or their son where they... because kids today, they use such bad judgment, and they're going on the internet and they're doing all these crazy things, and they're jumping in cars with people they don't really know. And, what if they jumped in the car with someone that committed a crime, and the next thing you know, they had no clue about it, but now they're with that person that committed a crime or murdered someone, and guess what? They're going down. And those parents would want everybody to be like, wait, just listen what happened, or don't blame my daughter. She didn't know. She didn't realize. They would want people to have some understanding and some compassion, but nobody does today. It's funny because I had heard a case back a couple of years ago. I don't know if y'all ever saw it. It was the Shauna Nelson case, and it blew my mind because Shauna Nelson, she had a good life. She had a couple of kids, and she had gotten pregnant by the guy she was having an affair with, who was a cop. And her husband was so caring. He was like, look, you keep the baby. We'll raise it as one of our own. And he was really good. Ken, he was in the police department too. But Ignacio, who was married to Heather, was having an affair with Shauna, and she was a dispatcher for the police. But what got me was that Shauna Nelson was sitting around with her best friend Michelle, and they would drink wine, and Shauna would try to think of all these ways that she could kill Heather because she was so obsessed with Heather. She hated her so much because she was so in love with Ignacio. And there was this point where she would drag Michelle into the conversations, and Michelle was like, well, maybe you could tie her up, and then you could maybe, kidnap her or whatever, and just get Ignacio scared or something. Like, she was half plotting, half kidding. And what she didn't count on was that Shauna did decide to go shoot Heather in the head. And she went to the bank where Heather worked, and she shot her in the head. And she did go down for the crime, but guess who they took with her? Michelle, her best friend, got 9 years for conspiracy, just for sitting around and kicking the ball on how she could kill Heather. So you really just have to be so careful who you talk to, what you talk about. You have to really just surround yourself with good people, because in this day and age, every conversation that you have is being heard by somebody. And you do not want to find yourself on that end of the stick, because if you wind up in our court system, you are not going home. That's what I'm seeing. And it makes me sad, but at the same time, it makes me just, stay home and not go anywhere, because I don't even want to interact with society. And I don't want to take a chance that maybe I'll hit somebody with my car. And even though I probably wouldn't be drinking, because I don't drink, and I wouldn't be texting because I can't text and drive. That's just way too high on the multitasking for me. But they would find me guilty, and I'd be arrested and go to jail for vehicular manslaughter, even though I wasn't under the influence of anything. And you know why that is? Because there are no such things as accidents anymore. There's no such things as bad judgment, bad breaks, a coincidence or fate. There's none of that. So just all I want to say really in conclusion is I hope y'all will be really careful out there. And like I used to tell my stepdaughter, make good choices. Okay, thanks y'all. Bye now.